dudes, I'm Hilah, and today on Hilah Cooking, we're making homemade chicken noodle soup. You heard me, homemade noodles. I've never done this before. I have, I'm kidding. If you've never made your own pasta before, egg noodles are actually a super easy way to start. And if you are still fighting through mounds and mounds of leftover Thanksgiving turkey, you can totally repurpose that and make turkey noodle soup, and no one will be the wiser. Okay, first I'm gonna start with some raw chicken because that's my favorite thing. I have some bone-in, skin-on chicken thighs here. You could totally use whole raw chicken and chop it up. Like I said, you can use some leftover turkey and some boxed chicken broth or turkey broth if you have some of that. Anyway, I'm gonna put this in this pot back here along with some garlic and onion and some other stuff. Come see. So I've got about 6 cups of water in here. I'm gonna slide these chicken thighs and then the onion and garlic. I'm gonna add some salt and a bay leaf. And then I like to add a little bit of turmeric, partly for color, but also for like the tiny bit of, I don't know, anti-inflammatory properties that like a smidgen of turmeric might offer. Well, that was more than a smidgen. And some coarse pepper. Gotta activate that turmeric. I don't know if I believe all that. Boop. Bye-bye. Okay, so that's gonna cook for like 45 minutes. You could let it go for like an hour and a half. Your stock will be richer and deeper and more chickeny if you do it that way, but whatever you have time for. I'm gonna start on the noodles because that's the thing that takes the second longest amount of time. So I'm gonna put some salt again. And like I said, if you've never made your own pasta, egg noodles are really easy. The dough is nice and soft and pliable, really easy to work with. Okay. I actually got this recipe out of this old, like, it was called like Recipes of America, and it was like recipes of the US, like from its colonial days up to like the 1960s or something. And this was called like chicken and corn soup with noodles, and that was it. It was like these noodles, boiled chicken, and a shit ton of corn. And I love corn in soup, but it did strike me as a little bit weird. I don't know, it seems like, I don't normally think of like combining 2 starches. Like, let's put noodles and corn together. Who wants corn sauce on their pasta? I don't know. Whatever. I am gonna put some corn in the soup. I'm gonna add about a cup of flour. Start a little light. I think that was about 3/4 of a cup. Start a little light and then just add more. That's kind of the thing I feel like with pasta, is it can be a little bit loosey-goosey. Maybe I didn't actually put 2 tablespoons of milk in there. I don't know, I didn't measure it, but this actually looks pretty close to correct. I love this soup so much. I'm so excited to show this to you. Okay, this is a little soft, but that's okay. And by soft, I mean sticky, like when you're talking about bread and pasta dough. When it's done, it shouldn't really stick to your hands. But that's okay, because we're gonna need some more flour into it. Isn't that pretty? I think it's so pretty. There you go. And then you just start picking up the flour on your little sticky dough ball, and pretty soon your little sticky dough ball won't be sticky anymore. It'll straighten up and it'll fly right. I'm sorry, my voice sounds very raggedy because I have been sick for like a week. But here, I press on and I make a video, even though I'm not feeling 100% up to snuff, because I care. I care about you and I care about your leftover turkey problems. See, if you combine leftover dried out turkey with homemade noodles and soup, everyone's just gonna be paying attention to the noodles. They don't care that you're trying to make them eat your fucked up turkey again. Just kidding, y'all are gonna do great. I bet your turkeys were great. Okay, this is good. So it's a little springy. What we want to do now is let the dough rest for a few minutes and let it just sit here for like 10 minutes, and that's going to let the gluten strands kind of just chill, man, just chillax. It'll make it a lot easier to roll out. So just go chillax and come back in 5. 10 minutes have passed. My soup is simmering away back there. It smells so good. And my little dough ball is nice and tender feeling. So you just wanna roll it out. I guess you could use one of those pasta rolling machines, but I don't think you really need to. We did a homemade pizza video years ago, like back when we had the Orange Kitchen, and that was so fun. I don't know, something about the texture of this, I guess, just reminded me of that. That's why I bring that up. Not that it has anything to do with this, but it has to do with dough and playing with dough, and playing with dough balls, playing with balls. And it doesn't really matter what shape it turns into, because we're gonna cut it up into little strips or squares or whatever you want to cut it into. And it's rustic, you know? Okay. Secret knife drawer. I like keeping my knives in a secret drawer because if anybody ever breaks into the house and looks for a knife with which to kill me while I sleep, they won't even know where to find the knives or the pizza cutters. So I like to cut my egg noodles into like 1/4-inch strips, and I like to keep them kind of long. I don't know why. It is easier to eat if you cut them into like bite-sized pieces, but I don't know. I like to keep them long because I think it looks cooler in the pot. And a little pizza cutter is perfect. Oh, so my pizza reference does tie in. Maybe subconsciously I was thinking about the pizza cutter. Man, my subconscious brain is so much smarter than my conscious brain sometimes. Okay, so look at all those pretty noodles. I'm gonna sort of like just toss them in a little bit of the flour so they don't stick together, and just set them aside to kind of dry a little bit. So if you wanted to, I mean, we're gonna cook these like very soon, so whatever, they can just sit on the counter. But if you wanted to save them for later, you can spread them out. I mean, I would just leave them here probably and let them dry for like 2 hours until they're kind of dry to the touch, and then cover them and put them in some kind of container and stick them in the fridge. But for now, I need to use the space to cut up my vegetables. So these noodles are gonna have to get the out of the way. So just wanna toss these with a little bit of the flour so they don't stick together while we're waiting to cook them. Okay, so we can just set them aside while we prep some vegetables. I like to use carrots that remind me of dildos. Just kidding. I do kind of like these big old like honkin' donkey carrots. They remind me of root cellars and stuff. I did scrub it. It still looks a little gnarly, but if you want to peel it to make a prettier presentation, it does work. It certainly looks prettier. But I do like to keep the skin on pretty much everything because fiber is the only proven superfood, y'all. I read that on a headline recently and I believe it. I didn't actually read the article, of course. And I'm gonna cut these up kind of chunky because I love a big, chunky carrot in my soup. Can I get an amen? Just kidding. I don't really believe in that stuff. Okay, then I am going to use some green beans. And you know, like any soup, you can use whatever vegetables that you like. I like green beans. You could also use frozen green beans if you have those instead. Oh, you're supposed to do it this way. This is the way my granny taught me, where you snap it and then you peel the little string off. Although modern green beans don't really have much of a string. Or maybe that's a different variety. Maybe string beans are a different variety from green beans. Maybe that's the thing. But I remember we would go visit my great granny in Tennessee when I was a kid, and we would string beans, and then she actually did have a root cellar where she would keep stuff that like roots, you know, potatoes, carrots, whatnot. And then, but also she would keep her canned goods because she would can a lot of stuff. Even like she would can like homemade vegetable soup, which I don't know, it was just I always thought it was pretty cool. So canning, it's something that we should all learn how to do for when the end of the world comes, right? Okay, this bean looked dirty, but it's just a blemish. It's not dirt, I rubbed it. Okay, get rid of those. And then I'm gonna cut these a little bit smaller because I don't want big walrus chunks of green beans sticking out of my mouth when I try to eat my soup like a lady. And then celery. You can buy fresh celery, or you can use celery sticks that have been in your fridge for a long time since you tried to be healthy and decided to cut up a bunch of celery sticks for your snacks, but then you still ate chips instead. that's all my vegetables. Oh, and then of course my corn, because this is America. If you wanted to add potatoes or cabbage or turnips, I love turnips. Turnips are underrated, I think. Then you could totally do that. You know, the world is your oyster. The world is your oysters. Rockefeller even. Get fancy. So now we're just gonna wait for the chicken to keep cooking, to finish cooking, and then we can finish the soup. Sorry, I am high on cold medicine. When your chicken's done, you take it out. I'm gonna let it cool. And while it's cooling, I'm gonna add these vegetables to this bubbling pot. It's smelling real good in here, y'all. Okay. All right, now we're gonna let that cook for about 10 minutes until they're starting to get soft. My chicken turned yellow from my turmeric. So that's how you can tell it's healthy, because eat the rainbow, right? That's why Skittles are healthy. Raise your hand if you like to pick chicken. I remember watching this like Paula Deen episode forever ago, and she was like, picking chicken is one of my favorite things to do, y'all. I just love to pick chicken. Like, I don't know. I mean, aside from the fact that this is like hot right now, but also that just seemed like a really weird thing to love to do. But maybe some of y'all do like it. I could see it being fun in a scientifically weird kind of way. I don't know. Oh, and then if you were doing this with leftover already cooked chicken or turkey, then you would just do this, like get all the bones and everything out, and then just start basically at this step, like bring your stock or whatever to a boil, and add your vegetables. Be a little shortcut that way, save you some time. Once your vegetables are starting to get tender, meaning your carrots are easily punctured by the tip of a knife, you want to add in the noodles to your boiling soup and kind of sprinkle them in gently so they don't all just like clump together. And then put the lid on it and let them boil for another like 8 to 10 minutes until they're nice and tender. Once that happens, I'm going to add my shredded chicken that I have here. I'm also going to add my corn because I forgot to put it in with my vegetables earlier. Look how fat and wonderful they are. They're toothsome. That's the word. Whoa. Okay, I'm gonna add the chicken. My kern. Go free little kern kernels. I feel weird using tongs for soup, but that's what I'm using. Okay, I think I'm gonna have to add a little bit more water. This is turning very, very thick, but that's okay. I'll do that and let it simmer with the chicken and everything for just a couple more minutes, and then we're ready to serve, babies. So I did add about another cup of hot water and then added a little bit more salt. Oh, it's still bubbling. It's so hot. It's molten. Okay. God, these noodles, I'm telling y'all, they're so good. I don't know, I mean, you could probably do other stuff with them, but I don't know. Look how pretty that is. It's not just me, right? It's actually like really beautiful. Then, I don't even care about the chicken. You actually totally could just make this vegetarian and just have the noodles with the veggie soup. I think it would be absolutely perfect. I should have made this a week ago when I was actually like dying from my illness instead of now when I'm almost all the way better. What am I, an idiot? Maybe, maybe not. Thank you so much for watching. It's still good to be back. I guess I'm just still so surprised how nice it feels to be back on making YouTube videos. But anyway, chicken noodle soup for your soul. Bye.